Hey everybody, welcome to the Herd Fit Podcast with Dr. Sam Rhee and myself, Coach David Syvertsen. This podcast is aimed at helping anyone and everyone looking to enhance their healthy lifestyle through fitness, nutrition, and most importantly, mindset.
Welcome back to the Herd Fit Podcast. I'm Coach David Syvertsen. I'm here with my co-host, Dr. and Coach Sam Rhee on the other side of the table. And we have two guests. That's why we're so far apart today. Sam, I miss you, man. But we have two very special guests today. Two guys that just competed in the Masters Fitness Championship out in Fort Wayne, Indiana. This was last week. Last week at this time, they were almost wrapping up the 3-day competition that had 9 events? Seven events. And we're going to go over them. But I have with me a friend of the podcast, a multiple-time guest appearance, Daniel Coda, who just competed in the 40 to 44 division, and longtime friend, also fellow competitor. I've competed against this guy, former gym owner and current Bison Beast, Kevin Yurchak. Fellas, how we doing?
Good, really good.
Yep, doing well. Thanks for having us.
Who goes first? Oh my gosh. Usually it's pretty easy to figure out who's going to talk when it's just one guest, but I will do my best to facilitate how we go through that just so it doesn't get awkward like a Zoom call. But guys, thanks so much for coming on. We're going to dive right into this. We're going to have these guys on for a couple of episodes, and we're going to really break down the Masters Fitness Championship. Those guys have put a ton of effort, time, energy, investment into providing an opportunity for Masters to compete, just like legends. And I don't know if those guys are friends or competitors. I don't really care either. But the two of them have done such a good job giving the Masters a platform to really put themselves out there and compete. And I want to get their story out there, their workouts, the good and bad and ugly of the competition, and break these workouts down, break the event down from two guys that I've known for a long time, have a lot of respect for as people and as athletes. And they're both very smart. They're just smart people, and I think they have a lot to offer both to the Masters Fitness Championship staff and also Masters competitors out there. Sam, opening thoughts on these two Masters Fitness Championship before we dive right in.
These two are some of the best athletes, maybe among the best like top 2 or 3 that we have at our gym. Like, I watch them move for years now, and they have a long history of competition, of excellence, of athletic performance. So their opinion, what they think, matters a lot to me because they represent, I would say, some of the highest achieving plus highest mentally sort of people that we have here at CrossFit Bison. So Dan, this is your second time competing at Masters Fitness Championship. Yep. It used to be called Masters Fitness Collective.
Yeah.
All right. How are you feeling a week out after that competition of 7 events, a couple of really nasty workouts too that we will dive into? Are you fully recovered? Are you ready to train again? Where's your head at? Where's your body at?
Yeah, this was definitely very challenging weekend. I think it was harder than last year, and last year was pretty hard. A week out, I'm finally starting to feel like a human again. I would say like
7 days.
Yeah. I would say the immediate, like that night on the plane going home, the next like 2 to 3 days, I was just feeling down and like just out of it. Like nothing. There wasn't like nothing was fueling that fire. Yep. You know, I was just like, man, I just want to be home. I don't even want to work out, which is very rare for me.
Yep.
I took, 2 days where I did absolutely nothing. I sat in front of my computer and worked and did even working was a little bit hard. Like focusing, everything was just a little bit harder for 2 to 3 days. Mm-hmm. I started just moving again on day 3. And by day 4, I started feeling basically my mood shift, which was, I've done a lot of competitions, and I would say this 3-day one is a much harder on your body, on your mind, on everything. And so now a week out, I'm finally feeling kind of back to normal. Nothing's hurting anymore. It took a little while, but I finally feel good again.
Awesome. Now, Kev competed at the CrossFit Northeast Regionals in 2011. And do you know, off the top of your head, is this the first time you've done a 3? We'll edit that out. No, we won't. That's too much work. Is that the first time that you've competed for 3 days consecutive since then? I was actually thinking about that today.
Yes, I believe so. And actually, I was talking to my friend Brendan Lynott, who I competed with in 2011, and we were joking that it was the last time we did a 3-day competition, and then we remembered we got cut on the last day of regional. So I do believe that was only a 2-day or maybe 2-day, maybe 1 in the morning. But
Got it. All right. So this may be your first day.
So I do believe this is the first time that it was that long. And there's definitely a difference. I mean, getting up, we were joking a lot when we were there. We're like, it starts to feel like Groundhog's Day. It's like you're working out, you're going to the place. It's like, then it's like we come back, and like the second you can get out of there, you want to get out because you want to come back. You want to try to eat something. You want to try to sit down, get in the ice bath, throw on the Normatec boots, whatever it is. But it's like, and then it's like that anxiety kicks in because you're like, oh, I got half hour. We got to be back at the place. So it's definitely a lot. It comes at you quick.
Yeah. So let's break that down, the recovery components between workouts, and then we'll start breaking these workouts down. For those on the outside looking in that want to do this someday, and they like to train, they love CrossFit, they're capable of qualifying for something like this, and they want to go spend 3-4 days and invest some money in doing something like this. You can train for the competition, you can break down the workouts, come up with strategy. I think that the amount of time, effort, energy put into the recovery components between days and between workouts is vital. How long, Kev, did you guys have in between events on an average basis, and what did you do to accelerate some of your recovery that was needed in between?
So typically we would have an event about every 4 hours. So on, I think Friday, it was 12 and 4. Saturday was our longer day, and we had 3 events. So it was 12, 4, and 7. And then similar on Sunday was, I think, 11 and 3. So it was essentially like a 4-hour window. So, what was good for me, I'm not typically somebody who works out early in the morning like a lot of you guys. So for me, that 12 o'clock time was a perfect time to start, wake up, have breakfast. I kind of felt like it was a good thing to kind of go for a walk, just get moving a little bit, get out in the sun. Something that works for me. And then it was, essentially go to the workout, and it worked out well for both of us because we were in back-to-back heats. So given the division that we were in, it was Dan would go and then I would go. So we were able to kind of be there, support each other. I was mostly warming up, but I was able to see a little bit, get a quick word in with him. Hey, how to go, little things, little tips, which was very helpful for me. But then essentially the second the workout ended, it was like we sprinted over to the ice bath that was there. There was one of the vendors that was there. There's Michael Phelps's ice bath company, whatever it was. So, we literally would hop right in. And then it was, let's get out, let's get home. We stayed very close to the Coliseum at the Airbnb, and we would get home. And the hardest part was trying to eat something. You're just trying to get something in your stomach, to kind of refuel a little bit, given how much time you had.
What was your go-to?
My go-to is I'm very weird with what I eat. I eat the same thing at all times. As I found out, I had groceries delivered while I was on the airplane coming in.
What else did you have delivered to your Airbnb?
An air fryer. So I had about 8-10 pounds of beef delivered.
Oh my God.
I had rice, fruit, honey, and like I said, I had the same thing whether I'm at home, whether I'm there. That's just kind of who I am.
That's awesome.
So for me, it's one less thing to think about. So I knew it was ready. I would hop it in, cook it up, eat it. And it was really just kind of getting down as many calories as you could at that point. And then Dan brought his whole Normatec full body cast suit, which and it was really just kind of taking turns in that and just kind of trying to just get out of the craziness that's there, the noise, the loud, for me, it's just get into a calm and then think about what's up next.
I'm huge on that. Just get into that calm environment, even if it's an extra car trip or two. It's great to be away from all the commotion. The question would be if you have an event every 2 hours, you really don't have the time to do that. So you almost prefer the bigger gaps in between events. Dan, the recovery last year compared to this year, did you do anything different this time around as compared to 2022?
Yeah, a lot actually. So last year I stayed in the hotel that was right across the street from the venue. So convenience-wise, it was great. We could walk over. It took 10 minutes. I could drive. It'd take two minutes. But I didn't have... I didn't have a kitchen. I didn't have all that extra, just comfort there. So this time we had the Airbnb, which was just hugely helpful. I got there actually early. I went early Thursday so I could have the full day to kind of just settle in. I went food shopping myself after check-in, just hung out in the hotel, in the Airbnb. I worked on a lot of hydration. So like I know on the plane, you start to dehydrate a little bit, even though it's not super long. I was taking element packs and getting my hydration in that day because I knew it was just going to be a little bit harder. Just trying to eat as much as I could that Thursday, knowing that it was going to get harder and harder to eat as I went along.
How many calories did you count?
I was counting right up till that day before I left, and I think I was around 3,000 calories. And for that last like week leading up to it, we amped it up. I've been working with Kelly Cabin about it. She's an awesome nutritionist. And so other than that, like this year I've jumped on the ice bath wagon.
Yeah, let's
Whatever.
I love it.
What did you do? Did you bring one out there, or did you have a bathtub?
I thought about it actually, but I saw early on that they had a sponsor there in the venue to have ice baths unlimited. Actually, on day one, we were one of the later ones to go. There was like 4 heats after us, and we were done for the day. And they were packing up, and I went over there. I'm like, "Can I just jump in real quick?" And she's like, "No, we're close." I'm like, "I just did 90 squats, and my legs are gonna die." And I begged her.
How do you say no to that pretty little face?
Yeah, she let me in. I'm
you
so
went
thankful.
nice.
But then Kev didn't get in. So
So take off your shirt for it, Ken.
yeah, we went to a gas station, got a bunch of ice, threw it in the ice at home, in the bathtub at home, and I went in a second time because that workout when we get to it, destroyed me. Yeah.
Last question about that ice bath, and then we'll get into these workouts. I don't care that much about this, but I know some do. A sponsor has ice baths there. You guys aren't showering before you go in. Is it just like, hey, grit your teeth together, and you are now the 19th person after a sweaty workout getting in there? You just do. I mean, at the end of the day, you're trying to cool your body temperature down.
Yeah.
You don't care. They're not like emptying these things and putting them back in, right?
At the end of the night, they did, but obviously not during it. No,
Yeah.
I mean, you're just kind of,
At that point, you just don't care that much.
You really don't care. You're in a huge open Coliseum.
I was curious because I saw you guys, your pictures. Those ice baths look sick.
Yeah.
What company was that? Do you remember?
I think it's called Goat.
Goat? Okay.
Yeah. It's Michael Phelps' company.
All right. Give them a little shout out.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they were awesome. And they those systems are very expensive. They have filtration systems in there. They actually go hot or cold, whatever you want.
Wow, really? Oh, that's sick.
Yeah. But they were down like in like 40, 44, and it felt like so good after the workouts.
That's awesome. Good. So, speaking of water, you guys started off this competition in a pool. The first event was a 500-meter swim for time. And if you're a swimmer, that doesn't scare you. If you're not a swimmer, you might as well put someone drop in the middle of the ocean and tell them to come home, because that's not a short distance. That is 7 to 8 to 9 to 10 minutes in the water. Did you have to go the entire time back and forth? Were you allowed to rest at the end of a pool? Was there anywhere to stand? What was that like, that event, Kev?
Yeah, I can start out. So for me, I don't have any swimming experience. I grew up in Lake Apacon, so I swam, but not swimming as far as, competitive swimming, even, properly, getting your head underwater, breathing, all that type of mechanics. So for me, this was something that was entirely new. And, I definitely put it off a little bit, and it was really going, maybe was it 2 weeks out or so, they announced the workouts and what they had done in previous year, which we kind of knew there was going to be a swim. It was more of a sprint. They did like a knockout style where they would have everybody go, and each time down and back they would eliminate 4 people or whatever. So something like that, you can kind of get away with it. You can be like, you know what, I can just go really far underwater, just kick as hard as I can and hope for the best. But this was not the case. As you mentioned, there's a 12-minute cap, and the workout was essentially broken up into people that knew what they were doing, that were swimming 6-7 minutes, that were head down the whole time and go. Then there was the people, and I kind of fell into that second range where it was, I developed the proper technique, but I couldn't continuously be going back and forth the whole time. And then there was the people that were like, I just don't want to die, and I want to make it to the next event. So there was more of that than probably what what you'd expect. But I mean, for myself, and Dan was on a different level of it than I was, but it was swim down, turn around, hold on to the wall, give it a breath or two, and then come back and try to just maintain basically like, it was down and back 10 times. So it was like, can I do this continuously with only a couple breaths in between, try to do it under a minute as we go back and forth, and kind of just hope for the best.
Okay. Dan, what gets fatigued the most in a swim like that? Is it the breathing or is it the lats?
Yeah. No, I think that the breathing is the scariest part of it all, because like you're underwater and if you need to take a breath, you can't. There's moments where you kind of get that like painfulness where it's like you feel like the extra like carbon dioxide build up and like you want to take a breath, but you can't. So the lats do fatigue, but that's something that is not like, you can push through that. That's not really an issue. It's people. I think what scares people, what makes people stop is the breathing.
Okay.
So like I was a lifeguard growing up. I never swam competitively, but I'm a fish in the water, so I love it.
You're built well for swimming too.
Yeah. So that was an event that I was going into. Like, I want to win this thing. Like if there's not college level swimmer here, like I have a chance.
Yeah. It's funny. It's like Kev said, the gap between like a real swimmer, like a Nick Squire, and us, even if you're like fit enough to swim, it's night and day. You know, it's like a scratch golfer and I try to break a hunter when I golf. It's just a completely different ball game.
Oh yeah. I was working with Nick, just getting pointers and tips of like what to do, how to get better, what like little tricks from a college level swimmer. And he's like, yeah, it should take you like 6 minutes. And I practiced the first time I tried it out, it was like 9 minutes. I'm like, all right, no, this is a totally different thing. But it was good because the guys who were right around my level, I was able to kind of like make them go a little harder than they wanted to. Like I talked to a couple guys who were next to me afterwards, and they were like, "Oh, I was trying to keep up with you, and I totally fell off my pace." And so that was something that I was strong in that one.
Why do you think they just programmed a straight swim event as opposed to, say, we've seen at the games where they mix in some sort of, like you said, ski erg or something else along with it? Like, is it just to test swimming fitness? That's it?
I mean, I was going to say, I think part of it from their end, if I were running the event, I would be worried about people getting in and out of the pool, doing something else, liability, that type of stuff. I don't know what all went into it, but if I had to guess, it was a little bit on that end. I think if you mix anything else with the level of swimmers that were there, it would have been pretty difficult because people were having a hard enough time just kind of getting by as well.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, there was more people that were near the cap than there was a 12-minute cap.
Did people like resort to like breaststroke, doggy paddle type?
You saw everything. Yeah. You saw stand. So you were allowed to stand. So literally, you're allowed to stand if obviously they don't want you to drown. So for safety, I mean, the guy next to me and I this was not an event where I was looking around trying to figure out what anybody's doing. It was like just trying to breathe and survive. And I would go back and forth every couple times, and I would just see somebody standing in the middle of the pool next to me. And
it was shallow enough.
I'm like, well, I beat one guy. Yeah. So, yeah. It was like 4 or 5 feet. Yeah, it wasn't very deep.
That's got to be a stressor for guys that run these comps. Is high level CrossFit, swimming's involved. Period. And you hear guys like Castro talk about, if you can't swim, you don't belong at the games. I know this is not the games, but we talked about these guys might be the replacement for the games someday. And I think it's important for them to put themselves in that experience of running a competition that has swimming, accept the liability that Kevin said. I've seen a qualifier for Legends, the Monsters comp. They did a 21-15-9 dumbbell thrusters with swimming in between. Like that's a different level that's a different kind of swimming, right? And you could say it's dangerous. And I would always say that for master swimming, we're not pro athletes. We don't train this all year round. It's got to be in a pool. You can't put these guys in a lake or on a beach. Like that's when were there even lifeguards there? Do you remember?
Yeah.
Okay, a couple. So that's a really interesting way to start off the comp. The good thing I like about it in regard to masters, it doesn't physically beat you up. Like you're not walking out of there with sore quads and lats and torn up hands and everything. It's a test of fitness that does kind of keep the playing field even the rest of the weekend.
What was the fastest time that you guys saw there?
I think low 6s.
Really?
Yeah, and those were college swimmers. I went up to talk to them after they were done.
Yeah. Swam at the Olympics.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Second event, okay, that I thought was really well programmed. 1,000-meter skier was their score. Was the time? Was the task they had to complete?
Oh, that's
Bjorn Dahlin.
different order.
All right, well, we'll just go over them.
Okay.
We don't have to do them in order. Okay, so the one I have right here, okay, is 1,000-meter skier. Okay, that was your task. However, every minute on the minute, including at the start, you had to do 20 crossovers with the RX Smart Gear Frevo rope, jump rope. Is that the beaded jump rope?
Yep.
Okay, so a beaded jump rope. They supplied it for you?
Yep.
So basically, you guys have to row 1,000 meters on the ski, which is not easy. Okay, a lot of upper body fatigue, shoulder tricep fatigue after swimming. And then do these kind of like new / trendy competition jump rope test, and it's the crossover. Man,
20 crossover single unders.
yes, single. Yeah, so you're not doing the double unders. Dan, you had this last year. You had these crossovers last year. That was the first time we saw them at a competition of this caliber, right? Because I think the games programmed them as well that year. And, you know, like anything, the first time you do them, you start freaking out because you can't figure it out. You spend all these years trying to get the double unders, and now it's crossovers. Like, what's next? Triple unders, you know, which is probably going to be the case. You've made you're awesome at them. You know, if I had to pick 3 people in the gym that dominate them, you're on that list. What was your key to getting better at them over the course of the past year?
Yeah, I mean, I think that just getting practice on it, just like any new skill, it's like it just once or twice a week after class, I would just take out the rope, you keep practicing it, keep trying it, get a lot of back whip marks because those are way worse than double unders because when they cross, it really hits you. But I think it's just, you got to just put the time and focus into one specific thing. So kind of like I've built up over the years, any specific movement, I just didn't try to there's just so much in CrossFit to do. And luckily I'm at a stage where I've nailed a bunch of the skills. So taking on a new skill it's just focus, like anytime.
Kev, you're not as fluid as them. You're kind of like with me, like you needed to work on them over the past year.
Definitely.
You tried a bunch of different ropes. What were you like on this workout, and what was your mindset like? Because you're really good on the machines. You've always been good on the machines, so that the skier doesn't bother you that much. But if you keep tripping up on these crossovers, that really kind of takes out that strength. What was your mental approach going into it? A, knowing the workout ahead of time, and B, you have seen progress with the crossovers. What's your input on that?
So for me, it was the first thing was this was announced obviously a little bit before. So it was get the rope that we're going to have to use in the event. So I went on Rogue, ordered the rope, and it was, all right, get used to it, figure out, the length of it, how you're moving it, where your hands are going. Again, I had practiced it, before as it's kind of been, coming up here between singles and crossovers and everything that's, now come out. So getting as comfortable as I could on the rope was my number one thing, saying, all right, this is the rope I'm taking out there. I'm going to use it. And, let's just really take the time to, as Dan said, a couple minutes after your workout. It's really not difficult to practice. It's not overly fatiguing. You're not trying to build strength. It's just something where if I say, let's hit the clock for a Tabata and say, I'm going to do 20 seconds of this and then rest and do it again. And for me, what I found that once I got the rope started, I would generally be okay. It was the first one where I would, if I was going to, trip, it was going to be on that first rep. So, going into it, this was the most nerve-wracking workout for me because it was so short. It was if you trip once, you trip twice, it could affect, the minute you finish into the next minute, and that could just have a huge, huge impact on your ranking in that workout. So that was my number one thing, was just focused on, even if I'm not doing them, I jump higher than probably what I need to, but I was like, you know what? I just don't want to trip because that's going to save me a little bit. And looking back at the video, I could see some of the guys next to me were going faster, but I just kind of had to rely on, for me, like you mentioned, I have long wingspan. I'm taller than some of the other athletes, so I can pull and make up some ground on the skier as I'm going. But it was just don't trip, which is not. Is not the best thing, as we mentioned, as you want to think about going into a workout, is not messing up, but it was really just get through that and then just rip, the skier as hard as you could.
How long does it take to do 20 crossover single unders on average?
I believe we were getting on the ski around 18, 20 seconds. Does that sound about right, Dan? Yeah. So it's really not that long. It's just a matter of, again, if you're starting it right at the start of the minute and then going. So it's really quick because, it's crossing one, the single counts as two. So you're going back and forth. It really wasn't that long.
You're really crossing 10 times.
Correct. Yeah.
So you have about 40 seconds of ski erg every time.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a workout that when I think back on and this is the one where I get angry because this was where this was an execution mistake on my end. This cost me the podium, I think 100%, because in practice I had nailed this. I finished it in the 5-minute EMOM window. I was pretty confident that I could push a little bit more on the ski, and I in practice was very relaxed on the crossover. And so that's a big part of it, actually key to it. When you start doing skill, especially on the ropes, this is double unders as well, you really need to relax your body. Once you start tensing up, you're starting to shorten your motion. Everything's starting to go off a little bit. And
So true. Yep.
I was in a position on the end of day 2 where I was starting to crawl back up the leaderboard, and I was thinking to myself, I need to do well on this. And I put it in my head a little bit too much pressure on myself, and I tripped up, just like Kevin said, a few too many times, and I moved into that 6th minute with I had 25 meters left. And I pushed that last one. I was pulling 128 on the ski, everything I had to stop to do it, because I had tripped twice in that last minute.
Yeah.
So sometimes you just gotta remind yourself to be calm.
One of the biggest skills in competing is staying smooth, right? Smooth is fast, but also there are workouts, there's urgency, right? I just call that's an urgency workout to me. I've been programming some things like that for other people, like just different machines combined with wall balls, blah, 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 right? And it's titled urgency. And urgency does not mean stress out. Urgency in a competition is you simply need to go to that 80 to 90% effort, but maintaining the quality of movement. And if you can't maintain the quality of movement, you have to dial it back. And it's really hard to do that stuff in the moment. It's a learning experience, but it's almost something you have to go through to really fully understand.
Well, that's kind of weird because you have to really sort of empty the tank on the skier and then relax and just execute on these single under or crossovers, which is and then you have to empty the tank again and then relax. And
interference fatigue, like the skier, jump rope are a lot of the same muscles.
And like you said, this is so fast that, once you can't, and the mental part of what Kevin was saying about not messing up, that's such a hard thing to think about when, because that's when I mess up every time, is when I say don't mess up.
Remember at the games, Tia's not this past year, 2022, they had to do 50 unbroken single unders.
Right. And
it's the same exact thing.
Yeah.
You can't screw up. If you screw up, you got to go back to 0.
Yeah.
And that's she can do 50 single unders unbroken. Why does she keep tripping up? Even the best have those mental hurdles.
It's tough.
Really good job by the programmers for their Masters Fitness that they programmed this. I thought the one thing I give them, they're creative. They do things outside the box, and you could always argue is it too outside the box, but I really give them a lot of respect for trying some things that are new, trend setting, and getting away from the norm, because I do think it's a part of CrossFit that we get away from as we go deeper into it. All right, let's talk about the workout that you guys might still be having some nightmares from. Okay, it's called Triple Threat: 50 back squats, 40 toes to bar, 30 shoulder overhead, 40 front squats, 30 pull-ups, 20 shoulder to overhead, 30 overhead squats, 20 chest to bar pull-ups, 10 shoulder to overhead. So basically, it's just a bunch of back and forth between gymnastics and barbell, high volume, high capacity, a lot of repetitive movement patterns. The RX barbell, the guys there in the RX division had 135.95. The elite division had 155, 115. I did have someone ask if we could program this one for Bison.
Oh, please don't.
His first name is starts with an A and ends with an X, so you guys can figure that out who that is. But guys, this was the workout. This was day 1.
Yeah.
Okay, second workout.
Yes.
So this workout sticks with you the rest of the weekend, no matter who you are, what you do, how good you are at it. And that's a discussion for another time. Should you program this early in the comp? But what do you even do with Kev when you look at a workout like this? Are you breaking down reps per minute? Are you trying to come up with where I should be pushing, where I should be dialing it back a notch? Is this even finishable? What's your mindset when you look at a workout like this, considering that you have so much to do after?
Yeah, so we did have a conversation with all of us saying, when the workout came out, thinking, all right, kind of how do I attack this? What, like you said, reps per minute. But it's, it is very different because reps per minute on obviously your 50 back squats versus then going on to the pull-ups. And, it was just so barbell intensive that you had to kind of look at it in terms of how do I get through each movement? How long is it going to take me? So I did kind of I don't want to say 80% maybe dry run earlier on, just to get an idea of how far I was actually going to go, because in my eyes I'm like, nobody's finishing this, and that ended up being right. And,
no one finished?
No.
16-minute count.
No, and
holy shit.
And I think maybe I don't know what the best score in my heat was, but I believe it was maybe 10 reps, 15 reps into the overhead squats, and that guy won by quite a few reps.
So really not even that close to finishing.
No. So it wasn't there. So for me it was kind of all right. how do I manage all the squats? I knew for me the front squats were going to be the worst part of it. So you have to do the 50 back squats before you get there. So everybody's like, all right, we're going to do all 50 unbroken. And it's like, it really, I don't think helps you out to do that at all. So you kind of have to stick to your own plan on this. I mean, there's guys that, for me, it's just squatting is not my strength. So I know that there's people that are just going to hold on that barbell and go, but for me, that's not going to be something that's going to help me. So it was really just kind of just load management, thinking, all right, how do I get through each movement? What's kind of my time frame when I get to each one? What's my plan? The gymnastics were there, and they sound like big numbers, but they're really not, in terms of you go from 50 squats, 40 toes to bar, and then right back on the barbell for the push jerks and the front squats. That's really just kind of you're thankful to be over there, and honestly you don't want to finish the reps because you're like, I don't want to get back on this barbell. right. So it was really just trying to figure out how to manage each one, knowing that it just progressively gets worse. Like the push jerks, I were joking, were almost like strict press because I just had nothing in my legs when it got to the end.
So much interference on this workout. Dan, this was a workout that we discussed prior to. It definitely was. It would freak me out, and you could tell just in the way you were talking about it that I wouldn't use the term you were not worried about it, but you knew this would be what we call damage control, right? Not your strength. Same thing. We're all three of us. We're not like the greatest volume squatters in the world, right? And it takes a long time for us to recover, but we can hang on the rig. What was your mindset going into this, knowing that you could dominate these big sets of gymnastics, probably only spend 30, 40, 50 seconds there, and then you're back to the barbell? What was your approach on it?
Yeah. It was 100% get through the squats because I'm very confident on the gymnastics, very confident on the shoulder to overhead. But at this point in the competition, I didn't know my competitors yet, and I didn't know what they were capable of and it definitely 100% damage control. Let me get through as far as I can without destroying my body. I didn't do that. The back squats, I came out. I think that I did 30-10-10, which wouldn't be so bad, but I tried to move fast. And like, it's such a difference in the volume when you're moving fast versus a nice, steady, controlled pace. I could feel the lactic acid really start to get there early on in the workout. My heart rate exploded early on in the workout, and then 16 minutes is a long time to try to get your heart rate down.
Yeah, you redline pretty quickly.
Yeah, it doesn't come back.
Especially everything on here with the barbell, it's high effort.
Yeah,
and it's different if it's 95 pounds.
Yeah, and that first run, I felt pretty good. I was in a good spot. I think I got to the front squats probably like fifth.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, okay, I'm pretty good. I picked up the bar. I did 5 front squats, and like my my body just shut down. It was like, nope, you're done.
Yeah.
And I was like, uh-oh. The announcer who was calling it before the workout comes up to me. She's like, "You gonna win this?" I was like, "Yeah." And I pick up the bar my second time and do 5 more, and I just can't. And I'm 40 to go, and in my head now, my head's like, "Oh, you're done. Like you're gonna your whole competition's over." Like all these negative thoughts start coming in. The announcer goes, "Come on, Dan, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
So now she's on me too. But Dave Lancellotti before the workout came up to me and was like, listen, the front squats are like quicksand. Everybody is just stopping there, and that's where the whole thing slows down. And I really should have processed that a little bit more, because I think if I had pulled back and done 10s on the back squats, the toe to bar, I went hard because I wanted to try to gain a little bit of time on people, knowing that I could do big chunks. I think I did 25-15. Like I was off that without any time. That was a mistake because I didn't allow my body to recover for that barbell. So really, if I had taken an extra, let's say 90 seconds to get to the front squats, like there were some people who did this, I would have passed up a bunch of people. And luckily I got through them, and I was able to get back to the rig and undo where it was just 30 pull-ups. I knew that was a strength of mine. I did 10-10-10, pushed through as hard as I possibly could. I passed up like 4 or 5 people there to get myself back in a decent spot. I think I ended 8th on that. But the top guys were, I think, almost finishing their front squats. I mean, their overhead squats. They were really good.
Okay. Sam, any thoughts on this kind of workout being on day one of the competition?
Well, then you would have smoked their legs for the rest of the workouts.
Well, it was day one.
Oh, it was. Yeah.
Day
So
one.
it smoked them for the rest of the workouts. I think, that kind of volume. I saw Dan do a half workout in prep, like on some Sunday, and I watched it and I was like, dude, you're smoked. Like, after even just half of the volume that you did, your legs are shot. Like, I couldn't imagine going on. I mean, this is why you guys had to recover with the ice bath, with all the other stuff, because I think if you program this for a regular workout, like, nobody's going to be able to move for 3 days. Like, literally, even if you cut down the weight and the reps, like it's just a little painful.
Yeah. So I don't, my 2 cents on that kind of workout is I don't think you can ever say it doesn't have a place at a comp like this. You could always put a workout like this, especially if you cap it, because then not everyone's doing all the volume. So that's part of it too. But I think for the best of the competition and the competitors, it's okay to test it, but I would always either put this towards the end. I would say either halfway or towards the end, because it really does have an impact on the rest of the weekend. And I know the tough guys out there will say, hey, well, that's part of what this is. I agree. A big part of competing over the course of 3 days is how well you recover. Fact. But you can test that so many different ways. And I think no matter what you do day one, it's going to be hard and it's going to test the recovery component. But the workout that on paper is by far the most difficult workout, in my opinion, should be at the halfway point or the back half of the workout, just so that you can preserve these guys as much as possible and really see who can take on the rest of these tests at a high level. That's my only critique of the workout itself.
I mean, also, these are old people. They're like masters.
Right.
Like, you're really beating the crap out of them.
That's part of it. So day 2 started off with the shuttle run, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's make sure I have that right. This was a workout these guys did not know until the day of or the day before, 2 days before. It seemed that there might have been a logistical issue. There was going to be an air runner involved in this, and they took them out. So, don't love this that they replaced that with the shuttle run. And the workout is 32 burpee shuttle runs, which is basically burpee, run down and back, burpee, down and back, right? 32 times.
It was 2 burpees, so it ended up being like 16. So you did 2 burpees, ran, came back. So a total of 16 on that burpee.
Okay, cool. Okay, so that's what the burpee shuttle run is. 12 sandbag ground to shoulder and carry, 24 shuttle runs, burpee shuttle runs, 8 sandbag ground to shoulder and carry, 12 burpee shuttle runs, and then 4 sandbag ground to shoulder and carry. Guys, 150 pound bag, ladies 100. The elite was 200 pounds for the guys, 150 for the girls. Holy mother. The thought of doing this after the workout that we just talked about is just unbelievable.
How long were the shuttle runs?
It was, I believe, was it 40 feet?
50 down, 50
down, 50 back.
Okay.
That's not a short distance.
That's far.
I'll say this about the shuttle runs. I know the word run is in there. It's not even close to the same as running on an air runner. Whatever their distances was, whether it's 400 meters, 800 meters, don't really care. If something like that happens, Legends had that happen in San Diego a couple years ago. An issue with, I think, air runners didn't get delivered in time, so they changed the workout to a row. That is what I think they should have done. Either put a bike or row in there, even though I know those machines are in the comp later on. Running on an air runner for X amount of distance and not turning around and not doing burpees, that really tests that part. The fact that it's a shuttle run, that's not a run test. It's just not. It's not a conditioning test either. It's about quickness and turning around fast. And again, hindsight 2020, I do think that the results of that workout would have been different if it was a long machine.
Why did they not put a run in? Why did they sub the burpee shuttle run in?
Yeah, I mean, as far as I know, 6 months out, they had announced that they were that True Form was going to be a sponsor, and that basically let your minds go. Basically that it's going to be a workout with True Form, and so when the workouts came out and they're like, there's one unannounced that you'll find out there, I was like, all right, well, that's definitely the True Form. I spent a lot of time running on. I have an air runner at home, just a lot of time on that, getting good at on the air runner. Was really excited about it. I have gotten way better at running in general. It was something that, because of Achilles issues in the past, I didn't like to do on pavement, but the air runner really allows you to get past that and doesn't beat you up as much. And
And I guess the sponsorship fell through. There wasn't really any communication about that. I guess the fact that it's unannounced, they don't really want you to know anyway. But I'm assuming that because the sponsorship probably fell through, they didn't do it.
Kev, any input on that with, just changing something up on because you're a logistical thinker like that. You're very good at it, very analytical, a lot of experience too. Do you say hey, Dave, you got to roll with the punches? That is what you got to do. Or do you think that there's something that could have been a little different that would have created a different result for that workout?
Yeah, I mean, they probably could have done a little bit better job of communicating that one. I do know that they want to keep, from our end, we thought they want to keep it as a surprise. Obviously, behind the scenes, I'm sure there's a lot more that was going on that dictated that. Mm-hmm. And as you mentioned, what they ended up switching it out to be, I mean, it ended up being a good score for me, so I was happy with it. Mm-hmm. But I do agree that something else could have been there. I don't know if it would have been, logistics, if they could have done some sort of run. There was, doors that we could have run out, something like that. But it would have been an entirely different workout if it had been some sort of, run involved that was actually a run. And then at that point, as you mentioned, I think they had the rowers there because they were in a different part of the workout, but there was 2 floors going on. So with what they actually had to use, I mean, if they didn't have the runner, if they could have used a bike, but it's a little bit difficult saying from our end because we don't know all the details, but it definitely did change. It definitely did change, the idea of the workout. I would have really liked it, to try it with an air runner because I hadn't had a lot of experience on it. As Dan mentioned, he had one. So I popped in his garage one day when he was working and I just started running on the thing. And I'd like to, similar. I did enjoy running on it. I'm like, this could be something that would just be, a different challenge for the people that were there.
What was the sticky point of that workout anyway? Was it the sandbags? Was it the shuttle runs?
Yeah, this is actually, for me, in a good way that I learned a lot about myself and what maybe I need to work on moving forward. And it's stuff that's come up in the past, but definitely the workout the night before had a big influence because my legs were just shot. So the sandbag, 150 pounds is heavy, and it's so different than a barbell. Mm-hmm. We had barbell cleans at 155 later on the weekend. That felt totally fine. But really getting into good position, getting into, to the shoulder, slowly my legs started getting that same kind of acid buildup from that, just that quick, powerful movement, which I'm not a very powerful guy. So I rely more on the slow twitch, but that gets so affected that after doing, my 12th clean and doing these carries, my legs didn't want to move. Mm. So getting to the shuttles, I had to start walking fast because I just couldn't run. My legs wouldn't do what my brain wanted. Mm.
Yeah, that is a rough workout. The next 2 I want to dive into kind of together, just so we don't run out of time here, but also there's a common theme between the 2 of these, and it has to do with the fact that, workouts being changed after they're announced for the reason that we think, again, don't know all the details of people, don't want to use the word complaining, but kind of giving some feedback about, hey, this is not doable for a lot of us. So I'm just going to give both workouts and then we'll kind of break them down. And then also just really the macro level of if you sign up for a competition, do you have the right to complain about a workout? Okay. So here's the first one. Against a 3-minute running clock, 300-meter row, 250-meter row for the girls, 3 deadlifts, 275, 205, 3 rope climbs, 2 rope climbs for the girls, 150-foot handstand walk. That is 3 50-foot segments and 10-foot increments. Basically, you do that for 3 minutes, you get a 1-minute rest, and there's 3 intervals of this. So again, to break that down even more, row hard, deadlift kind of heavy, get some rope climbs done, and then you get to handstand walk as much as you can until the clock runs out, rest for a minute, go back to the start, and then once you get to that 150-foot handstand walk, your workout is complete. Workout for both you guys that I would say is very good. You're both good at rope climbs, you're both good at rowing, you're both good on your hands, and you could deadlift that barbell, touch and go.
How many deadlifts?
It was 3. What changed about this workout? Let's talk about that first, then we'll go to the next one that changed.
Sure. So on this one, originally what they had said was that the handstand walk had to be a 25-foot unbroken length. So on that, it does change it quite a bit, obviously saying, and it ended up going down to 10 feet. So for us, when they announced it, me and Dan, we're listening to our athlete briefing. I think I was in bed putting one of my kids to sleep, and I'm like, oh, wow. I'm like, everybody starts complaining about it. And me and Dan are like, I'm texting him saying, that, this is good. If people are complaining, that means they can't walk 25 feet on their hands. And that's something that like we figure, we could do well. And obviously you never know, like going back and forth, but at the same time, that's, it would be a good thing for us. So that there was just a lot of chatter on that. I don't ultimately know what ended up in the decision. The only thing I can say is that because the window was short, I did feel like 25 feet was a long way, because as you got on your hands and the actual time spent walking, there was a good chance that you could have been stuck in the middle of a segment when time expired. So if it were 3 rounds of it, just going straight through, I think 100% doing it 25 feet would have been definitely the way to go. But they definitely went back to 10 feet, which, I don't know, all that went into it. But it definitely, I don't want to say lowered the skill a little bit, but just, it made it a little bit more of a sprint. You were able to take, you didn't have to worry about taking as much of a chance, towards the end of that time segment for each 3-minute window.
It's a good point.
And just on the floor itself, where they set it up, I guess they didn't realize the way they would ultimately have the final layout, but they only had 20 feet of walking space. So it went from a 25 foot to a 20 foot. And so you have to go back and forth a few more extra times. Right. And for someone who is bad at handstand walking, that might be good because it gives you a little bit extra time to break. But in practice, originally on paper, it said there would be a 50-foot length that you would be able to walk. So I just went the first one, 50-foot unbroken.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm gold here. I'm gonna pass up a bunch of people. I felt really confident in it. So I think that the shorter lengths ultimately helps people. Helps more people do it.
Cool. Now, speaking of changing a workout to help people out, the hunter becomes the hunted. This was, I believe, the final day. Okay.
Yeah.
3 rounds for time, 25 cal bike, ladies 15 on the Rogue Echo bike. 5 bar muscle ups for the guys, 3 bar muscle ups for the girls, or 20 chest to bar. We'll talk about that in a sec. And then 50-foot single arm overhead kettlebell walking lunges, 53 pounds for the guys, 35 for the ladies, 10-foot segments. All right. What changed about this workout, Dan?
Yeah. So it was rings. In the briefing, there was, I'm not saying everywhere, there was a lot of chatter on there, a lot of complaining about, well, we're not in the elite division, we're in the RX division, we shouldn't have to do ring muscle ups, so this is too many. And the event organizers that day were like, listen, you're signing up for an elite competition, regardless of the division. This is still the best of the best in the country that are coming together. You should be able to do this, and if you can't, it's a good opportunity to try to get better. I'm 100% on board with that. They ended up changing it to bar muscle ups to 7 bar muscle ups per round for the RX division, which, for me, it was a good thing. Like I'm way better at bar muscle ups, but I think that I'd rather, I'm going to these events also, like, just like they said, like, to push myself to do more, to be better, to find out more weaknesses, to, push myself to another place that hopefully mentally I maybe didn't think I could go. So it was a little, I was a little upset that they made that change, but
you get it. Now when it says or 20 chest bar, are people allowed to do that?
You had to declare beforehand, and you would be below, like, that. It's basically scaling it.
Got it. Okay.
So even if you did 1 bar muscle up, you were still better than the people.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. I like that then. Legends did that too one year, where I think handstand walks, if you couldn't do it, you could overhead carry a plate, but your score was going to be below anyone that did a single handstand walk.
Did they announce this workout before you guys got there?
Yeah.
So you thought it was ring, and you practiced ring, and then you got there and they changed it to bar?
Oh, they changed it.
During early
after the briefing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, we had maybe 5 or 6 days before.
Okay.
So you still did train the rings, though. Here's one thing that can pretty easily combat this, because I really don't like that changing workout like that, because people complain, because it's like Brock, like a 3-year-old, right? Like the second you start giving in to what they want, they're going to just keep pushing that needle. What else can you give me? What else can you give me, right? You should have in written text prior to anything, prior to the qualifiers, here are the movements that you're going to be expected to do at the championship if you qualify. And if you don't want rings in RX because there's a lot of people in RX that can't do the rings, that's fine. But that should be stated prior to. This should not set up this platform or this opportunity for people to say, hey, I can't do pistols very well. All right, so I'm a master's. I should not have to do pistols. Like, that's only for young kids. If there's a lot of us that think that way, do we get pistols out of a competition? Or do I say, look in the mirror and say, that's on me. I need to get better at them. And I do think that's a big part of these big competitions. We're not going down the road. Like Dan said, Dan pays a lot of money, invests a lot of time, effort, energy into training for a competition like this. For an athlete to actually outwardly complain and get kind of like a band of people together to do that, I don't think you should be competing at a competition like this. I really don't. And it's one event. You know, it's not like you're going in there 6 events and you can't do all of them. It's one movement and one event that you're not good at. And the response to complaining, I think, is very poor.
I think the biggest issue really is like you said, people change events for a variety of reasons. But if you're changing it specifically because of the negative feedback you're getting, that's such a slippery slope.
It is.
And you should never do that.
If it's logistics, like...
Yeah, or safety.
Like, hey, like 50 feet, we don't have the 50 feet. We don't have the 25 feet. Or the scoring, what Kev brought up, it's easier to score 10-foot increments.
Right. The sponsor drops out. That's fine. But if they... I mean, if that is true, that they changed it from ring to bar because the RX division complained enough to change that.
Yeah, and I mean, to the guys that run Masters Fitness Championship, if you guys want to come on, I would love to talk to them about that and just see, like, all right, is there another side to the story? Is there something that they dropped the ball on, or is it something that it was communicated early on, but it just wasn't followed through? Like, we'll see. There's always 2 sides to the stories. I don't want to come down on them hard, but as Sam said, if you change it because people complained, slippery slope.
And this one is also because I suck at ring muscle ups personally. And I would have been like, yay, awesome, bar muscle ups. But I would have known deep inside it's because my skill level wasn't up to what it is. You're trying to find the best athletes, like you said.
Right.
So ring muscle ups are part of any elite or good athlete's regimen. Like, I worked my ass off when I had to do them so I could pull out a couple in the open when they came through. And that was a huge challenge. So why wouldn't you do that? Because you're trying to find the best athletes out there.
That's a great point. Here's another way of angling this is you could have, what do you guys think about this? You know how they said if you did 20 chest bar, you had to declare your score, no matter how well you do, is going to be below someone that does 1 bar muscle up. If you do bar muscle ups, guys, fine. You can't do rings, that's fine. But your best score is going to be 1 below every single person that does a ring muscle up. What do you guys think about doing that? Would that have made you, what would you have done actually?
I mean, I have ring muscle ups well enough that I
get through those.
I could have gotten through it.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, I was happy I won that workout. Yeah. I can't complain really too much about it. But I think if that was the case, that might have been a better solution to keeping the skill level very high.
Yeah, and I just kind of felt for, you know, there were multiple age divisions there, and it went up to, I believe, like 65 plus. So I don't know where it started to differentiate between, you know, rings and whatever. And, you know, in my eyes, I just felt like my division, Dan's division, up to, you know, whatever you want to say is a cutoff. I think rings are expected. So it, like, to me, it just seemed like it's something that should have stayed in there. And of course, like, you get to maybe, you know, 55 or 50 or whatever age division you feel like is appropriate to maybe bring it down because you're worried about, you know, people might not be able to do them or lower the count. I can understand. But I think for the people that are out there looking to compete in the division, the age group that we were in, it just seems like, I couldn't imagine any of the guys that I was competing against would have had a problem doing those.
Yep. I mean, I really do feel this about Kevin Dan, that, you know, had they been, they could have been in the elite group there, no matter, like, no question to me. Like, that just comes down to programming and qualifier, right? Like, I could probably tweak the workouts 2 ways and they both be an elite, right? Like, they are elite caliber athletes. So in that RX division, you're not talking about, you know, it's not a scaled division. It's a very high level athlete division.
Dude, look at these workouts.
Yeah, no.
I mean, come on.
So to really, you know, if you have an intermediate division or a scale division, then yeah, don't put the rings in there. Communicate it prior to, but that's just one thing that kind of left a little bit sour taste in my mouth. Very well programmed comp, no question. That's like the one asterisk. I'm like, I wish they could have gone back and done that. But I'd love to hear some feedback from them if they want to reach out. Let's talk about the final workout, guys. Every second counts. 20 burpee box jump overs, 10 cleans, 16 burpee box jump overs, 8 cleans, 12 burpee box jump overs, 6 cleans, 8 and 4, 4 and 2. So basically you're doing twice as many burpee box jump overs as cleans. Barbell was 155, 105 for the RX. It was 205, 135 for the elite. Holy cow, that's a big difference.
Yeah, it's huge.
Holy cow.
Any kind of clean was acceptable. Power squat, For you guys, this is capable of going touch and go, but this is a ton of burpee box jump overs. This is a burpee box jump over workout. I like putting something like this at the end of the comp because it's a lot of grit, effort, low skill. I know you guys are tired and beat up. We're not having you do like squat snatch or overhead single dumbbell overhead squats, right? You guys at this point are spent. You know you're going to be on a plane in a few hours going home and have to work tomorrow. It's, where's the head at? You guys are both really close to the podium placing at this point. What did you have left in your system, Kev, to really push through probably the highest effort part of the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, for this one, I think that there was definitely a boost that happened with me and Dan right after that first workout Sunday. He mentioned he won the workout. I came in second, and it was all of a sudden it was like we're right there. And as I mentioned with the crossover one, it's all this skill. Am I going to mess something up? Am I going to what's going to happen? There was nothing to this. This is get in front of your box, do your burpee box jump overs, do your power cleans. You can't you said it's not a squat snatch. You can't mess anything up. It's just go.
Yep.
So it was at that point in the competition where it was like, all right, let's do whatever we can. We were checked out of the Airbnb at that point, so it was like we kind of we went outside, and then me and Dave we sat in Chili's, and I was like, I can't eat anything anymore. I didn't have it in me, so I'm like, I was just trying to get hydrated, just sitting there, just trying to get in cool air. And being like, this is just how much you want it, how hard can you go? And in that one, it was, that's what it was. I knew the guy that I had to beat to get in third. And unfortunately, I think we got to like the 12 burpee box jumps, and I'm like, this just isn't happening. So, but again, it was just lay it all out there and just, kind of go for it. I had idea of pacing going into it, and, there wasn't, it was that kind of just went out the window. It was like, there's one guy you have to beat, and if you can't beat him, nothing else matters. So just kind of go for it. And unfortunately, kind of just fell a little short on it. But it was something where, like just mentioned, it was just go. You just turn your brain off, just go as hard as you can.
Yeah. It's interesting what he was talking about in recovery. Now, this was like the moment of the weekend where all the pressure build up, everything's like on the line for one workout. We were in a position, like I was in third place. I could even move up to second. It was really close points. At the beginning of the day, Dave, you texted me, like, you got nothing to lose today. And in my mind, I just put that in there. And I was just like, kept telling myself, you have nothing to lose. Let it all go. Whatever you got left. I was really riding high after taking first.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Again, the announcers are now calling my name as I'm working out, like, Dan Coda, who put on a great performance this morning, comes up in the third. Can he keep it?
Everybody look at him.
I before the workout, I couldn't eat anymore. Like, it just, everything started, my body just started like
nervous system.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just like, didn't want to, like, mentally, it was a battle to, like, part of me was like, man, why you do this to yourself?
Yeah.
So it was like trying to switch my focus back on before the workout. And, the guys there were all really cool. That's like another part of this, the whole experience that people may not think about, but you become friends with your competitors. Everybody's really cool. Like, ultimately you're trying to beat everybody, but you're trying to do your best. So there's like nothing you can, like, no one's going to push you out of the way, to lose or anything. But, it was the same thing. I had one guy I needed to beat, and I could hear, like, I PR'd that workout. Like, I did better than my practice, which is great at the end of the weekend.
Yeah.
I'll take that with me. But that as I hear the guy's name who I needed to beat pass me up and finish the workout, and I had, like, I think 4 burpee box jumps and 2 cleans left. It was like I got punched in the stomach in that moment. It was like, I just told myself, finish the workout, get through it. And it was like everything just, like, all the pressure, everything just kind of let off my body. And it was like, I just wanted to lay down.
Yeah. One of the best feelings I do, it's like once you finish that last rep in that last workout, it's such a utopia type feeling. It's like, oh, thank God I'm done. Then you get into some of the reflection stuff after, but closing this episode up, you guys are going to come back for us for one more if we have the time. We'll talk after. But I want you guys to give me one positive and one critique of Masters Fitness Championship, just from the athlete experience perspective. What did they do really well? Something that you were really impressed by? And then what do you think could have enhanced the experience a little bit? Who else to go first?
Sure, I can start.
Kev?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like just the overall experience. I mean, to me, just the venue, having the access to the pool, just 7 events, being able to really test yourself over the course of all different kinds of tests. I mean, we get into the programming and what we liked, what we didn't like, and ultimately over 7 events, you're able to test so much. That I thought they just did a great job of that. And like I said, having the pool, having the Coliseum where there was like unlimited space for us to warm up. The facility was clean. All of that was just, again, just done really well. As far as like critique or something you wish you could have done a little bit better. The one thing I can say is, as far as like on some of the workouts, you see it happen often when you watch the games and you hear Castro talk, and a lot of it becomes, okay, if I'm doing, take like the burpee box jump example where I'm in my round of 20 and then the round of 16 and it's 12 and 8 and 4 and all the way down, it's difficult to tell over 20 lanes who you're competing against and who you are.
So they weren't having you move up the boxes or anything.
No. And again, I know that there might be a lot of issues with that I'm not thinking of. I mean, in one of the workouts, we did move it up on that squat one or the barbell one where it was kind of moving to like a segment a little bit as you go. But it's difficult with 20 people to find out where you're going. You don't know who the people are. I mean, if I'm a CrossFit Games competitor, I know who Roman is. I know who Pat Bell, I know who I'm looking at.
Right.
These people, we're walking in and we're holding up our name tags, and I'm like, oh, that's the guy. And it's like you really don't know until you get into it a little bit more. But if there's any chance for them to do something like that, as far as just logistics, I'm sure it would help the people watching that are there. Not that matters as much. But just for us kind of looking over to say, hey, this person is in the lead. And honestly, that was super helpful to me to have Dan and Dave that were there to kind of chirp like, okay, there was one time I was running in the that landscaper one, which was the sandbag one, and they were calling out somebody's name, and I was like, who the hell is that guy? And they're like, that guy down there in the pink shirt. I was like, all right, good now, and it gave me that a little bit of advantage. But that's just something that if they could do in the future, it'd be helpful.
Awesome.
Yeah. So being there last year, I saw huge overall improvement. They had a lot of issues last year with judging with volunteers, and I think they didn't have enough volunteers for what they were trying to do. The volunteers were overworked, really, really tired and upset. And by day 3, I think like maybe half of them had just left. Oh my! Because they were just tired. Like they weren't getting what they were promised. This is what I heard anyway. And they had to change a workout and change the time. Like on day 3, they were like, oh, this is a 12-minute workout. Now it's a 6-minute workout, or whatever it was.
Yeah, lack of resources.
Yeah. So this year they did such a good job with the volunteers, getting everything in place, the overall experience. Honestly, I've not been to the games, hopefully one day, but it's as close to an experience of a games level that I picture in my head.
Okay.
You get there, there's a really cool check-in process where they're giving you all this cool stuff. The venue just looks really big and really cool, and the workouts are a high level. I went up to the organizers after just to thank them for doing this, because I know they're not making, I don't know if they make any money on it. They're probably not making much if they do. But the fact that they put this on for us every year is so awesome. And to give us, the people who are not quite at that level, at that games level, an opportunity to shine like this.
Absolutely.
Is really awesome.
Yeah, it's huge.
I know like some people complain about the lack of a stream, but that's been kind of a hot topic this year with the games as well. And I think that's just there's not that.
It's more expensive than you think.
It's just so expensive for them to do. I work in television. I know how expensive things like this can be. And I think they were smart to take those resources and put it back into the competition itself. Even like the way they laid out the floor, there was less. I heard Brian Friend talking about this. There was less bleachers set up, which is just more expense. But the bleachers were never full. Like there was never a lot of people there. Like most people who are there, they're friends and family, and they're watching right up close. Right. So like, I thought that was all really, really well done, really well organized.
Okay.
As far as the critique goes, I mean, honestly, I have a hard time coming up with something right now.
Okay, that's awesome. That means they did a good job.
Yeah. I think that in what I'm hearing from legends, I think there is a little bit of competition going on between them, which I think is healthy and good, and it's only going to make it better. Yep. I am hearing a little bit more of the swag that you get, and like Legends is doing 4 outfits. They're probably going to be a little bit like this was the shirt we got. It's just a generic shirt.
TYR.
Yeah. It's like we had to we paid to get our names printed on it if we wanted it, and stuff like that. So like little things like that can make you feel just a little bit more like you're like this amazing athlete. That's not a really big
How about
deal,
the location? Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Oh yes, 100%. I know that this is. I think one of the organizers is from there. Probably has some sort of connection. Fort Wayne probably wants you there. But it is such a pain to get to.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah,
I thought you were about to say something positive about it.
Oh no.
How'd you guys get there?
I had to fly into Detroit and then take a 2-hour a car rental and 2-hour drive to get to Fort Wayne. You could do that. Kevin went into Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Long drive after, Kev?
Yeah, another 2 hours. So I mean, it's just kind of part of it. As you mentioned, and I'm sure there's a connection with the organizers and the facility. I mean, the facility is great once you're there. And I was telling Ashley before when we were talking when we got here, it's like once you're there, it doesn't matter where you are. You could be in Hawaii, and I mean, we were back and forth, and the
hotel
time, right? Yeah, but it's kind of is what it is. Once you get there, you're just focused on what you're doing. But it's definitely not the easiest place to get to. I know my wife Rana was like, "Can you do the one in Arizona? Maybe like we'll get everybody to go." But like I'm not going there.
All right, guys. So, Sam, any closing thoughts on this? Just on the competition itself, coming from a Masters athlete as well. These guys' performance, what they did, but also just, how well Masters Fitness Championship did to serve the Masters community.
I'm really interested. MFC's done a great job with this. Legends is doing a great job. Let's see what happens. I think there are going to be some big changes in the future, and I think you guys are going to be on the cusp of it, and you guys are seeing it. So.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, everybody, for taking the time out of your day to listen to the Herd Fit podcast. Be on the lookout for next week's episode.